Hi guys, so welcome back. Before we dive deeper into today's topic, let's have a very brief recap of what we studied previously. So in the first video we studied what is accounts, and as we discussed, accounts is nothing but a language that we use to express business performance. Then we also learnt about the 5 fundamental building blocks of accounts, which are income, expenses, assets, liabilities and equities. We also learned that there are 4 fundamental statements in accounts, which are nothing but the way these 5 fundamental building blocks interact with each other. And this was what our first video was about. In the second video, out of these 5 fundamental building blocks, we studied 2 building blocks, income and expenses. And we learnt about income and expenses in the context of our hypothetical company XYZ Limited. Now, in this third lecture, let's learn about one fundamental statement of profit and loss. And statement of profit and loss is nothing but the way these 2 fundamental building blocks, income and expenses, interact with each other. So, without any further ado, let's start with this statement of profit and loss. So, guys, necessity is the mother of invention. So I think if you want to understand any invention, a very good starting point would be to understand what is the necessity behind that invention. So if we want to understand what is statement of profit and loss, let us first try to understand why do we need statement of profit and loss. And the answer to this question is very simple. Let's say you are a business owner like Pratyush from our batch is. What is it that you would like to know about your business as the year ends? And well, the answer is you would like to know about the profitability of your business. You would like to know how much money you made, whether you made profit or a loss. Likewise, let's say you are an investor and there are 10 companies in which you could potentially invest your funds in. Once again, what is it that you would like to know about your 10 potential companies? You would like to know which company is more profitable, which is less profitable. Essentially, the profitability of the companies. Let's take third scenario. Let's say you are an employee working in an MNC. You would here as well like to know about profitability of your company, since your bonus, promotion and increment depends upon your company making profit. So the fact that I'm trying to highlight here is whatever the scenario that we are looking at, there is a fundamental need, there is a fundamental necessity to know about the profitability of the business. Statement of profit and loss is an invention that addresses this fundamental need. And how does it do it? Well, statement of profit and loss answers 2 fundamental questions. And which are this question? A, uh, whether the business made profit or loss, and B, it answers in case of profit how much, or in case of loss how much. So there you go guys, this is it. Statement of profit and loss is nothing but a statement that will help you know 2 things about the business: whether you guys made profit or loss, and in either scenario what's the quantum of profit or loss that was made. So now that we have a fair bit of idea about what statement of profit and loss helps us to know, let's do an activity. Let's prepare statement of profit and loss of our hypothetical company XYZ Limited. So the scenario is promoter of this XYZ Limited company, he comes to me and asks me to prepare statement of profit and loss for XYZ company. And I tell to the promoter, well, it's a very simple job because you have all your income and you have all your expenses listed around. So just give me a couple of minutes and I'll prepare a statement of profit and loss for you. Now what I do is I take all the income and I paste it here. Just listing all the income here. And then what I do is I take all the expenses and list them beside my income. Then I simply total them up. Likewise, I also total my incomes up. And as you know, since our income is more than expenses, we made profit. And what's the quantum of profit? Well, it's the difference between my total income and total expenses. So we made a profit of 5 crore 65 lakh. And then I go back to the promoter and tell him, well, here you go, this is your statement of profit and loss, denoting that XYZ Limited made a profit of 5 crore 65 lakh. But of course, you guys are very observant. You would have realized that here I have written wrong format. So now let's discuss about it. Taking our story forward, this promoter, he wasn't very confident of my ability. So what he does is he approaches another chartered accountant from our batch, Akshata, and asks Akshata to prepare statement of profit and loss. And once again, Akshata is like, well, you have all your income and expenses listed about, so it's a very easy job to prepare statement of profit and loss. Give me a couple of minutes and I'll make it. So likewise, what Akshata does is she takes all the income and she lists them here. Then she goes about totaling the income, and of course she arrives at exactly the same total income that I have arrived at. Now Akshata moves on to the expenses side, and instead of listing expenses besides income, she lists this expenses below income. And there you go, she totals this. And since income is more than expense, we have made profit, and the quantum of profit is the difference between these two. And well, Akshita goes back to the promoter and says that, Mr. Promoter, here is your statement of profit and loss. And if you look guys, Akshata and I, we both have arrived at exactly the same conclusion, which is XYZ Limited made a profit of 5 crore 65 lakh. The only difference is the way we both went about presenting it. Now, taking our story forward, the promoter of XYZ Limited, he was once again not feeling very confident of Akshata's ability as well. So what he does is he approaches the third chartered accountant, Srinivas from our batch, and he asks Srinivas to prepare statement of profit and loss for XYZ Limited. Now Srinivas is also like us, so he says, well, you have all your income and expenses listed, so preparing statement of profit and loss is a very easy job, and he starts working on it. Now what Srinivas does is he first of all studies XYZ's income sources, and he realizes that XYZ has three major sources of income, which is sale of umbrella, sale of raincoat, and profit on sale of land. Compared to these three income sources, all the other four income sources are extremely trivial. So what Srinivas decides to do is he simply decides to list all the major income sources. And for the income that are trivial, he decides to present them collectively. So he writes here other miscellaneous income, and he simply totals this up. So this comes to 1 crore 30 lakh. And then of course it totals the income up, and he arrives at exactly the same total income that Akshata and I arrived at. The only difference is the presentation format. Now Srinivas once again takes the same approach on the expenses side. He studies the expenses and realizes that XYZ Limited has four major expenses, which are purchase of raw material, salary and wages, and corporate taxes. So he decides to list these expenses separately. Rest all the other expenses that XYZ Limited has, Srinivas decides to present them collectively. So that would be this plus this. The total of course is 1 crore 15 lakh. And then he totals the expenses. He arrives at exactly the same expenses that Akshata and I arrived at. Once again, since income is more than expense, we have made a profit, and the quantum of profit is the difference between these two. 5 crore 65. He goes to promoter of XYZ Limited and says that, well, here you go, this is your statement of profit and loss. And once again, guys, the fundamental point that I'm trying to drive here is you have three different people, me, Akshata and Srinivas. All three of us arrive at exactly the same conclusion, which is XYZ Limited made a profit of 5 crore 65 lakh. The only difference is the way we went about presenting our statement. And this is where we encounter a fundamental problem in the business world. If liberty is given to each enterprise to present their statement of profit and loss in a manner that suits them, well, we have over 1 lakh companies in India, and each of this 1 lakh companies will come up with its own format of presenting statement of profit and loss. So there is a very strict mandated format in which all the statement of profit and loss have to be prepared. So now that we have a fair bit of idea what statement of profit and loss is, which as we know is a statement that answers this two fundamental question, whether business made profit or loss, and in either scenario how much. And we also have prepared statement of profit and loss for XYZ Limited, although in incorrect format. Let's now present statement of profit and loss in correct format. And the way we are going to do about it is through an activity. What we will do is we will look at statement of profit and loss of Titan Limited. Since Titan Limited is a real company, its statement of profit and loss will be prepared in proper format only. So we will look at that format and study it and simultaneously convert our statement of profit and loss of XYZ Limited into the mandated format. So without any further ado, let's start.